The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it." The Gospel of the Lord. Today we celebrate the feast of St. Anne and St. Joachim, parents of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's a beautiful feast, and the first reading sets out in general terms how blessed are those who have the faith and pass it on to others, whether in the community or within their family. Sirach says, "Let us now sing the praises of our ancestors." These godly people whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. Their wealth will remain with their descendants, and their inheritance with their children's children. In particular, other portions of Scripture also say the same thing. For example, St. Paul, in his second letter to Timothy, and remember, Timothy was Paul's protege, future bishop in the church. Paul was trying to pass the faith on to Timothy because there was much work to do in the vineyard, in the harvest. But he says this, "I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that first dwelt in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure dwells in you." There's a beautiful passage, and we're all here. You are grandparents, parents. Here you are in church doing exactly that. You're praying that the faith that you have received and have assimilated and have lived will live in others. And your prayers are efficacious because you're offering them through Christ to the Father in this most sacred liturgy. So I just urge you to continue to do that. And as we progress as a family of parishes, we will unfold other ways in which you and everyone else can pray for our young people, because prayer is the key. We can do all kinds of programs, but unless prayer nourishes it, it will falter. So look to the bulletin and the website. We will be unfolding these wonderful opportunities for prayer for this generation that is in the balance, because there are many competing forces trying to drive them away from God and from the church. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2220, has this to say: "For Christians, a special gratitude is due to those from whom they have received the gift of faith, the grace of baptism, and life in the church. These may include parents, grandparents, other members of the family, pastors, catechists, and other teachers or friends." One of the great champions of this was, as we know, Saint Pope John Paul II. He wrote much about this theme of passing the faith on to families. And this is what he said in particular: "The future of humanity passes through the family. So protect your families. See in them your country's greatest treasure, and nourish them always by prayer and by the grace of the sacraments." Let us continue to pray for our children, our grandchildren, and offer examples of how to live righteous lives by our generosity, our joy, always having a testimony in the back of our mind as to how God has acted in our lives, so that it gives flesh to this faith that can be often viewed as abstract and not really relevant. It's relevant when you and I have a story about how God has worked in our lives and what a difference it made, especially when we went through dark times. Finally, the gospel. Jesus says it. He brings it even more deeply into our own midst. To his own disciples, he said, "Blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Now, if Jesus said that to his generation, how much more for us? Because we not only have the scriptures, the words of Jesus, we have 2,000 years of sacred tradition, teachings of the Catholic Church, the examples of the saints. So blessed are our eyes, for they do see and hear. Many have longed to see what we see. But now it's our responsibility to teach the faith. All of you are catechists. So I pray and urge you, especially as we continue in our family of parishes, to take this to heart. Blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear the great mysteries that prophets from all the Old Testament longed to see but did not see it. We have it, and we have it in abundance. Let us keep our children, grandchildren, our country, our church in our prayers.